In a dramatic Oval Office confrontation, Vice President JD Vance delivered a stark and unsettling message to Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Your country is losing. This tense exchange, which played out in front of senior U.S. officials and global media, has sent shockwaves through international politics and raised urgent questions about America's role in the Ukraine war. What was meant to be a diplomatic discussion on continued U.S. military aid to Ukraine quickly turned into a heated debate over strategy, accountability, and America's long-term commitment to the conflict. JD Vance, who has been vocal about reducing U.S. foreign aid, directly confronted Zelensky over what he called a lack of gratitude and misplaced demands. It's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and attack the administration that's trying to prevent the destruction of your country, Vance said firmly, referencing Zelensky's ongoing requests for more funding, weapons, and diplomatic support. Zelensky, visibly frustrated, pushed back hard. He outlined the existential threat Ukraine faces as Russian forces continue their brutal offensive, targeting critical infrastructure, energy facilities, and frontline defenses. We are not just fighting for Ukraine, Zelensky insisted. We are defending democracy, Europe, and your security too. But this fiery exchange underscores a growing divide in American politics, one that is shaping the future of U.S. foreign policy. At the start of the war, U.S. support for Ukraine was overwhelming. Congress approved over $350 billion in military, humanitarian, and economic assistance to help Ukraine resist Russia's invasion. But today, that support is wavering. According to a Pew Research Center report, 31% of Americans now believe that the U.S. is providing too much support to Ukraine, a massive increase from just 7% in March of 2022. Among Republicans and Republican-leaning voters, that number jumps to nearly 50%, with many arguing that American resources should be prioritized domestically, rather than being sent to a war thousands of miles away. How can we send billions overseas while American cities are crumbling? The cost of living crisis, rising national debt, and border security concerns are making foreign aid a politically explosive issue in Washington. And JD Vance represents this growing sentiment. He and other America First leaders believe that Biden's Ukraine policy has spiraled out of control, with no clear endgame, no peace plan, and no accountability for how U.S. taxpayer dollars are being spent. Despite Ukraine's heroic resistance, the war is taking a devastating toll. Heavy casualties, Ukrainian forces have suffered over 70,000 battlefield deaths, with hundreds of thousands wounded. Russia's relentless assault, Moscow is launching daily missile strikes on Ukraine's power grids, military bases, and cities, leaving millions without electricity this winter. Ammunition shortages, U.S. and NATO stockpiles are running low, raising fears that Ukraine may not be able to sustain its defense in 2024 and beyond. Russian territorial gains. Despite early Ukrainian victories, Russia has slowly gained ground in the east and south, fortifying key positions. JD Vance and his supporters argue that Ukraine's losses are unsustainable and that continued U.S. aid is only prolonging the inevitable. But Zelensky and U.S. military leaders disagree, insisting that Ukraine still has a path to victory with the right support. This standoff in the Oval Office is more than just a disagreement. It represents a critical crossroads for America's role in the war. The impact of this Oval Office clash is already being felt worldwide. Russia is celebrating. Kremlin officials mock Zelensky, claiming that even his U.S. allies are losing confidence in him. Some analysts fear that a weakened U.S. commitment could embolden Putin to push deeper into Ukraine or even into NATO territory. European allies are panicking. If America pulls back, Europe may be forced to step up military support. despite already struggling with economic slowdowns and energy crises. China is watching closely. Beijing views the Ukraine war as a test case for how the West might respond to a Chinese invasion of Taiwan. If the US starts to withdraw support from Ukraine, will China take it as a green light to act? Meanwhile, back in Washington, the debate over Ukraine funding is far from over. As Trump gears up for the 2024 election, his campaign is signaling a major shift in foreign policy, one that could see a dramatic reduction in US involvement overseas. The question now is, will America stay the course? Or is this the beginning of the end of US support for Ukraine? Do you think the US should continue sending military aid to Ukraine? Or is it time to focus on America's own problems? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Like, share, and subscribe to Econ Atlas for more hard-hitting analysis on the biggest global conflicts. Turn on notifications so you never miss an update, because what happens next could change everything.